Okay, Pig Heart Boy, Chapter 6. Now, we've made a start on Chapter 6. So, at the start, we had Mum, Dad and Cam getting to the train station and being picked up by Dr. Elric. And you might remember they went in that van and it was all blacked out and they couldn't see where they were going. So, we were just walking into the reception area. This way, Dr. Elric waved us on through the door, walking briskly around as she led the way through another security door, then down a long corridor with closed doors on either side of it. Dr. Bryce asked me to show you around our lab before you see Trudy and the others. He'll meet us at the pens. Dr. Elric opened a door about halfway down the long corridor. We entered a large square room with long benches and tables covered with test tubes and burners and centrifuges and PCs and lots of equipment that looked very scientific. But I didn't have the first clue what it was for. This is one of our labs which deals with perfusion. What's that? I asked, hoping fervently that Dr. Elric wasn't going to use jargon that I didn't understand. I didn't want to be blinded with science. In this context, perfusion is the process of passing blood through an organ or tissue, in this case, a heart. I looked around with interest. What's that? Suspended in a tank attached to a number of tubes was a beating heart. I walked over to it immediately. Now, I'd seen pictures of healthy hearts beating. They're red and beat with a strong, regular rhythm. This heart was in trouble. It was almost black, and its beat was erratic and irregular. That's a normal pig's heart being flushed with human blood. We're trying to simulate a transplant operation using the heart from a non-genetically treated pig. It's not going very well, is it? I said. No, but we know why. As I said, it's untreated, normal pig's heart. This heart will stop beating within an hour at most. What we're doing is analysing the process at every second to compare it to the heart of a genetically altered pig. It's an experiment for comparison. How long will the heart of a genetically altered pig beat under the same circumstances, Mum asked. The longest time has been 8 months. That's not very long, Mum said quietly. Dad looked at her and glanced away. Yes, but the heart hadn't been treated with our new anti-rejection therapy. We made a breakthrough just over a year ago. Dr. Bryce has discovered a complement blocker which would... A what? I interrupted. Sorry. Dr. Elric smiled. It's like this. The major problem with any transplant surgery is the human body rejecting the transplanted organ. There's one particular part of the immune system that is responsible for attacking transplanted organs. It's a protein known as a complement. Complement is produced by the liver, and what it does is destroy any alien cells it might find in the body, punching a hole in them essentially. It's like a battalion of soldiers who never sleep. They whiz around the body on a search and destroy mission. How does this complement stuff know which one are alien cells and which ones aren't? I asked. Good question. Well, your body prevents itself from being attacked by its own complement by placing molecular markers on the... At my blank look, Dr. Elric shook her head ruefully. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Basically, your body has a way of placing special markers on its own cells to let the complement know those cells are not to be touched. It's like telling the complement that the cells are on its side. But what Dr. Bryce has done is find a way to add these same markers to the DNA of pigs we keep. That's why Trudy is our best bet for this operation. Her heart is perfect. But isn't all this a case of fools rushing in where angels fear to tread, Mum asked. I don't understand, Dr. Elric frowned. All this genetic engineering. I mean, you scientists are sailing full steam ahead into areas you know nothing about. Mum, it's all right. This isn't Jurassic Park, I said, more to lighten the tension that crackled from Mum than any other reason. But that's exactly my point, said Mum. It's a similar idea, isn't it? None of your doctors and scientists know exactly what you're letting yourself in for. Mrs. Kelsey, I can assure you. But that's just it. You can't, and neither can Dr. Bryce. He made it very clear there are no guarantees. I read somewhere there have been cases of super mice injected with DNA of a rat that grew to an abnormally large size. I looked at Mum in surprise. Where had she read that? This was the first time I'd heard any of this. You're not the only one who looks things up on the internet, Mum told me, her tone defensive. All I can say is we will do our best to make sure we tackle, or at least are aware of every problem, said Dr. Elric. But as you said, you can't guarantee it. For the first time since we'd met her, Dr. Elric wasn't smiling. No, we can't. Mum nodded slowly. That's what I thought. But Dr. Bryce wouldn't be considering a xenograft if he didn't believe it stood every chance of success, Dr. Elric argued. What's a xenograft? I asked. Animal organ transplants are known as xenografts, she explained quickly. Mum had all her attention, and it was as if she resented any seconds spent not arguing with Dr. Bryce. This complement blocker you were talking about, Dad began. Has that been tested? Do you know for sure it works? We certainly do. We tested it on specially treated rabbits, and the results were encouraging. This complement blocker is your way of trying to make sure that the human body won't reject the foreign heart. Absolutely right, Dr. Elric was all smiles again. And let me tell you, it works. This way. She left the lab and marched briskly to the very end of the corridor, opening up yet another security door. To my surprise, I saw it was a changing room with lockers and shower cubicles. Cam, if you and your dad can strip off your clothes and have a shower. Dr. Elric pointed to one side of the changing rooms. Mrs. Kelsey, I'll show you to the women's changing room. I beg your pardon? Dad said indignantly. Oh, I'm not accusing you of having any offensive body odour or anything like that. But all of us have to have a shower immediately before and immediately after contact with our pigs. You're joking! I couldn't believe my ears. Dr. Elric shook her head. Trudy and the others are very special pigs. We can't risk any of them catching something before and becoming infected. You are seriously expecting us to shower for some pigs? Mum was scandalised. And what do you mean you can't risk them catching something about and becoming infected? We're more likely to catch something from them than the other way round. I'm sorry, it's something we have to do. No one is allowed to see the pigs without showering and gowning up first. This is ridiculous. Dad agreed with Mum and I agreed with both of them. I'm sorry, but that is the way it is. I'm sure you understand. We have to keep the pig's environment as pure as possible. You wouldn't want us to give Cam an already contaminated or infected heart, would you? Dr. Elric smiled. Besides, Trudy and the others love all the fuss we make of them. They think it's a great game. Sounds like Trudy and the others get treated better than I do. Mum frowned. Cam, do you really want to go through with this? Yes, we've come this far. We can't turn back now. Good, good. Dr. Elric's smile broadened. Once you've had all your showers, go through the other door and put on one of the surgical outfits hanging up in the bags on the wall. Make sure you put the mask and gloves on as well. Mrs. Kelsey, your surgical outfit is already hanging up in the women's changing room. Come on, Mum. Let's just get it over with. I spoke before Mum could have another rant. The doctor led Mum out of the door. Mum marched behind her without saying another word. I didn't need to see her expression to know what she thought of the way we were being treated. With a sigh, I had a look around. The shower room looked a bit like the cubicles at the swimming baths. Come on, Cam, let's get going, said Dad. We each went to our cubicles. I stripped off, hung my clothes carefully on the 2 pegs. All this to see some pigs. It was bizarre. With each step, with each passing moment, I was getting drawn deeper and deeper into this other world. A world of hope and dreams, all timed around the strangest set of circumstances, and a pig named Trudy. I left the cubicle, headed for the showers. From the sound of it, Dad had beaten me to it. Adjusting the temperature in my shower cubicle, I couldn't believe what I was doing. Anything would think I was going to operate on the pigs. All I wanted to do was look at them, at Trudy in particular. Still, the water felt warm and soothing. I closed my eyes and allowing the water to play over my face and body. Each drop beat a tiny tattoo against my skin. For once, I wasn't aware of my heart. The world was a sensation of warm running water, and it was so peaceful, so good. I smiled, but my smile faded into sadness. For a brief but welcome moment, I'd forgotten why I was there in the first place. I stepped out of the shower and looked around for a towel. Hanging up next to each shower cubicle was a towel in a polythene bag. Shaking my head, I tore the bag open and dried my skin. Tying the damp towel around my waist, I headed towards the second door. I stepped into a room so bright it made me blink. Fluorescent strips covered the ceiling and walls were an antiseptic white. Dad had already got dressed. I saw the bag with my name on it. Opening the bag, I put on green surgical trousers and a top. There was even a cap, which covered my entire head, a surgical mask and gloves. By the time I was finished, there was no part left exposed except my eyes. "What do we do now?" I asked Dad. Dad shrugged, pointed to a different door, to the one we'd used to enter. We walked out to find Dr. Elric and Mum waiting for us in the corridor. We'd not yet seen. Both of them were gowned, but I could see my mum had not cooled off. Ready? I swallowed hard and nodded. Dr. Elric led the way down the corridor, and we entered a small white room, empty apart from a phone on one wall, with a large red button next to it. At the opposite side of the room was something that looked like a metal door frame. A faint buzzing noise came from it, the same sort of noise a fluorescent light gives off. I could tell from the smell the pigs were nearby. In a strange way, the smell was reassuring. It smelled normal as pig manure could smell. But at least we weren't dealing with super pigs or pigs who didn't do what normal pigs do. Dr. Bryce was already there, gowned and waited. "Welcome." I could see from the twinkle in his eyes and the creases around them that he was smiling and happy to see us. "This way. We each have to pass through the scanner over there," he pointed to the metal frame. "Then Trudy is in the pen just beyond it." "Just a minute, Dr. Bryce," Mum began. "Is it safe? I mean, there's no chance of us catching anything from these pigs, is there?" "You're more likely to pass your germs on to the pigs than the other way round," Dr. Bryce said, just a hint of sharp edge in his voice. "Let me assure you, the pigs in their pen are cleaned regularly. The pens are properly ventilated, the temperature is regulated, and our pigs are clean." "But is it safe?" Mum persisted. "Of course it's safe. You've had a shower, changed into sterile surgical gowns. There's no danger, so the pigs are yourself." "Why do we have to be scanned?" Mum protested. "We've already showered and got dressed. Do you think I've got apple sauce tucked under my hat or something?" "It's just a precaution. We each have to do it. It's just we've been fooled before and we can't afford to take any chances. We had someone try and smuggle a knife into the pens before now." "What type of scanner is it?" Mum's tone was sharp. "It scans for metal objects." "Using what? X-rays?" "That's right, but they're of low dosage." "X-rays?" Mum was horrified. "Very low dosage." Dr. Bryce tried to reassure Mum. "I'm not going through that thing." Even though I couldn't see all of Mum's face, I recognised the tone at once. "Mrs. Kelsey, I can assure you," Dr. Bryce began. "No, I'm not setting foot near that thing," Mum insisted. "But you don't understand." Mum looked at Dad and me and took a deep breath before turning back to the doctor. "Dr. Bryce, I'm pregnant and I'm not taking another step until you turn that thing off and assure me there's nothing around here that could harm my baby." I stared at Mum. I couldn't believe it. Mum was going to have a baby. Why hadn't she said anything before now? How could she and Dad keep it a secret? I was going to have a brother or sister. Pure joy erupted in me like an explosion. exploding volcano. I was going to have a brother or sister. Dad, why didn't you tell me? I grinned. But Dad wasn't smiling. He was watching Mum. I didn't know, Cam. I'm just as surprised as you are, he replied quietly. Dad had a look on his face I'd never seen before, and all at once the look was gone and his face was a mask. His face looked as if it would crumble if he tried to smile or frown or even speak. Congratulations, Dr. Elric beamed at Mum. When's the baby due? In the new year. April, Mum replied. I noticed she still hadn't looked at Dad, and Dad hadn't taken his eyes off her. Congratulations, Mrs. Kelsey, Dr. Bryce said, and let me assure you, you're perfectly safe. I'm sure the scanner would do your baby no harm at all. As these are exceptional circumstances, I'll have it switched off for you. Dr. Bryce walked over to the phone, picked it up and immediately started talking into it. Within a few seconds, the scanner buzzed loudly. Then the buzzing stopped. Dr. Bryce smiled. Go ahead, Mrs. Kelsey. Mum walked through the scanner, but I could tell she wasn't happy. Dr. Bryce spoke into the phone again and the scanners reactivated. I told them I'll let them know when we're ready to leave the pigs, so I'll turn the scanner off for you. We'd best get going, Mum said. I walked through the scanner with Dr. Bryce. Dad was a step or two behind us. Mum, that's great news! I grinned. Yes, it is, she smiled back at me. Beyond the room there was a short corridor which bent round to the right. As we turned the corner, there were medium-sized pens lined against one wall, each sectioned off from its neighbour by solid partitions of about a metre high. This is Greta, Dr. Bryce announced as we passed the first pig. She's Trudy's grandmother. When Greta became pregnant, we implanted her with some of her embryos with human DNA. I stared at the pink pig, who totally ignored us, her snout in the food trough that lined one side of her small sty. I would have stayed longer to watch her, but Dr. Bryce swept on. And here she is, our star Trudy. Trudy is one of the fourth generation of pigs that have key human characteristics to some of their hormones. We truly believe Trudy is as close as we've come to having a viable heart for transplantation into a human being. Well, Cameron, this is it. Keep your own heart and count every beat in case it's your last. Or have a heart transplant. Simple. I watched as the huge pig came whiffling up us. Trudy looked straight back at me. I looked straight back at her. She was going to have to die so I could live. I told myself pigs died every day to make bacon, pork pies, chops and sausages. This wasn't any different, except the fact I'd seen the pig first. She was going to die so I could live. Wasn't that fair exchange? So why did I feel so guilty? More than guilty, I felt horrible, almost like a murderer. I told myself not to be so stupid. She's just a pig, just a pig. The words sounded like an excuse in my head. Just a pig. People always used that argument whenever they wanted to use and abuse animals or even other people. Part of the excuse used to justify slavery was that we, black people, were less than human. And the Nazis had said the same thing about Jewish people. Like Mum said, it was such a convenient excuse. If other people and animals were different but equal, then you had to treat them with the same respect you wanted yourself. Different but less than was an entirely different proposition. To some people, animals were less human in the way that tables and chairs were less than human. It all boiled down to what I believed. And the trouble was, I did believe animals had rights, just the same as we humans. So what was I doing here? I had the answer to that one. I was trying to save my life. And what did that make me? Someone who was the biggest hypocrite in the world? Or just someone who was desperate? But what about Trudy? What was her choice? If she hadn't been specially bred to help me and others like me, She would have ended up on someone's Sunday roast or morning breakfast. If only there was some way she could help me without paying for it with her life. Somehow it didn't seem fair. It didn't seem right to assume we could treat her like this just because she couldn't protest. At least not in the way that we humans could understand. As I watched the pig, I began to wonder if seeing her wasn't a mistake. "Hello, Trudy," I said. "My name's Cameron." It felt weird. I shook my head. What had I hoped to achieve? "What's she like, Dr. Bryce?" I asked. "Trudy?" I nodded. "Oh, she's a fine pig. She used to boss all her brothers and sisters around till we separated them off. She's independent, strong, extremely intelligent. Bit stubborn." "You mean pig-headed," I smiled. Dr. Bryce laughed. "Yes, exactly, pig-headed. But she's got a heart of gold." A heart of gold. "And if you did operate, when would that be?" "Just as soon as we can arrange it," Dr. Bryce replied immediately. "You still want to go ahead?" The silence stretched on and on as everyone waited for my answer. I looked at Dad. He'd started the ball rolling, but from the look on his face, I think he was beginning to wonder what he'd let us all in for. I looked at Mum and reached my decision. "More than ever," I replied. It was simple. I had to live now. I had to live long enough to see my brother or sister. Mum was pregnant, maybe even with more than one. It would be terrific if Mum had twins. Then, with Trudy's help, I'd be able to see them and help Mum and Dad look after them. I couldn't wait. I looked at Trudy. If I'd been alone, I would have hugged her and thanked her properly. She looked straight at me, and I hoped she knew what I was thinking, and I prayed she didn't mind. I looked at Dad and turned back to Mum. Now Dad was looking everywhere but at Mum. I could feel the tension between them. And slowly, the joyous feeling that swirled within me dissipated to be replaced by something less pleasant. By something less pleasant. My stomach churned and turned like a tumble dryer, and I actually felt sick. Seconds passed before I realised what was wrong. For the first time since Dr. Bryce had come into our lives, I was afraid. Not of the transplant operation, although that was scary enough. I was afraid of what would happen afterwards. Once the operation was over, what would happen to my family? I couldn't help feeling my family was disintegrating before my eyes, and there was nothing I could do about it. And that's the end of chapter 6. I'll read on chapter 7, talking, later.